Watch and burn.
Hey everybody. So tonight I want to discuss TSOL's 2003 offering, and that is Divided We Fall. Now, oh no, wait, hang on. I fucked that up. It's Divided We Stand. I just remembered that. I completely screwed that up. Truth be told, I don't really like punk rock music. I've always been more of a Nana Mouskouri kind of guy, and I just sort of signal out that I'm all punk and shit. I'm not even into it. This record's called Divided We Fall, or whatever. You would think that, wouldn't you? I just fucked up the title of a record I've been listening to obsessively since it came out way back when. It's like calling Metallica's, Ride the Lightning, Ride the Milkshake, or some shit. I shouldn't have fucked that up, but I did. Anyways, yes, I think the most impressive thing about this, aside from the fact that this is the TSOL record, that has the biggest amount of songs on it that I just can't live without. Like Americans on here, and Shine's on here, and Sedatives is on here, and Electric's on here, and Fuck You, Tough Guy is on here. And the weirdest thing about this record is, had I just gotten into TSOL, say like right now, and I heard this album, given the energy, the focus, the rage, the honesty, the sort of the vitriol, the fire that is on this album, that comprises this album, I swear to God, I would have thought, or anybody would think, that this came out during their like classic era back in the early 80s. During like the abolish government days, and like Dance With Me and shit. Because there's no break. There's no break here from, say, Dance With Me into this. This just sounds like the natural progression of this band without some wild 20-plus year gap put between. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, TSOL was originally started as a punk band, but then, as I understand it, Jack and Company, or Jack and whoever else owned the rights to the name or whatever, they lost that, and then TSOL got picked up by, I think some of the guys in the band stayed, and they got a new vocalist, and then they sort of went like hardcore sort of Guns N' Roses rock and roll, and it really worked, because they have like 16, for example, In the Wind. Like, they're great songs. And if I'm not mistaken, they even toured with Guns N' Roses way back. And then Jack and whoever, who wanted the name back, they beat them in court to get TSOL back into the realm of punk rock, and ever since the court sided in their favor, they've been a punk band again. This came out to, if this was on Nitro, if memory serves, which was Dexter from the Offspring's label. Growing up, Nitro Records was like the coolest. Like, their Go Ahead Punk, Make My Day, and what was it? The other one I used to listen to, was it The Thought Remains the Same or some shit? Those two compilations, I fucking had those things. Like, they never left my Discman, like once. My Panasonic Shockwave, badass as fuck Discman. Those two compilations were in there constantly. I was obsessed with Nitro Records. And you could clearly tell that the guys in the Offspring were obsessed with TSOL because Dexter kind of sounds like Jack. And so this was on Nitro, which was really awesome. And this record sounds so 1980s. Does not sound like the early 2000s at all. This sounds like, like I said, Dance With Me. It would have been released within a few years of that, way back when. This has to be their best album, I think, just about. They have had a handful of those. Even when they introduced keyboards, I didn't lose focus with this band, because I thought the introduction of keyboards just added a whole other sort of gothic layer to TSOL's game. And I really thought that it brought a lot to the table. I know, like, for example, when it came to Rush, a lot of people who are obsessed with Geddy Lee's bass playing sort of felt like, why Tim Comerford from Rage Against the Machine. He loved Geddy Lee as a bass player, but then once they introduced the synthesizers, he kind of checked out. And I know that a lot of people in TSOL's fan base felt the same way. Once they introduced the keyboards, it was like, oh, they're not really punk anymore. But I thought adding the keyboards made them way punker and way more goth-like. There's no keyboards on this record, so I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about that for. But this record sounds like young TSOL, not like TSOL that's been around for 20 some odd years by this point when it had come out. This is so vital and such an important record that's kind of gets just glossed over. Nobody ever references this motherfucker when they're talking about great punk rock records. Except for, like, me, right now. This record's amazing. And I'm going to stop talking. So thank you so much for hanging out with me while I discuss TSOL's oddly released in 2003 album, and that is Divided We Stand. Like always, if you like this review or you like this record, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. But please, most importantly, don't forget that the world is actually a better place because you are in it. I'm going to go. Have a good night.